Subscribe or they will haunt you. What is the most terrifying thing you've ever experienced while home alone? Not supernatural or anything, just a timely coincidence. Last October I found a Ouija board in Goodwill. Brought it home. A few days later I was home by myself and threw what the heck I mess around with it. So I sat down on the floor, and I'm not even joking when I say this. As soon as I said, "Is there someone here?" the power went out. Like a week point later found out wind had knocked down a power line. Not gonna lie, I pissed my pants from fear. My ex-boyfriend showed up in front of my apartment and texted me. He was there because he wanted to talk. I told him I wasn't home. Thankfully it was during the day, so I had no lights on, and he called me a liar. He stayed outside for nearly an hour until he gave up and drove off. I stayed in my bathroom the entire time while on the phone with my best friend. Looking back, I should have called the cops, but I was a scared 17-year-old. 2 Jehovah's Witnesses just walked into my bungalow and started being aggressive and pushy about their beliefs. I think they thought that because I was young and used a wheelchair I would be an easy target. They only left when I threatened to call the police. Seeing a door open that 100% you closed. I woke up on the couch after a night of not good sleep. I looked onto our counter and thought I saw my brother's decapitated head on the counter. I was terrified, but turns out it was a watermelon. When I was like 9, my parents were both at work one day, and I was chilling at home by myself when the intercom rang. We lived in an apartment block. It was some lady asking if I've ordered a pizza. I calmly told her that I didn't. Then she said, "Oh, well, do you want a free pizza? Just let me in, and I'll give it to you." 9-year-old me was f***ing terrified by this. Not because I found the idea of free pizza particularly scary, but because my dad used to tell me really drastic cautionary tales for why I shouldn't open the door to strangers and other stuff. So I was genuinely convinced that the woman wanted to come in so she could murder me. After watching the first Doctor Who episode with weeping angels, I'm pretty sure I didn't sleep for 3 days. I took in a friend's cat that she did not want and I thought was being mistreated. My first cat. I was living alone for the first time in a very long time, so I was uneasy for about the first year. One night I heard a horrifying scream and went from sound asleep to standing next to the bed. I have no memory of moving. I jumped up so quickly. It was my cat hollering at another cat walking across the backyard. Scared me to death. A couple years back I woke up at 3 AM to see someone walk past my bedroom door. I called out in my just woken up, not thinking haze, thinking maybe my boyfriend had come over while I was sleeping, but got no response, so knew it wasn't him. Got out of bed, stupidly forgetting to take my phone or any kind of defensive item with me, and went into the front room where the light was on to be met with a random guy staring at one of the walls. I asked him who he was and got no answer. At this point I'd actually woken up enough to realize I could really be in trouble, so ran back to the bedroom, grabbed my phone, and ran outside on the phone to the police, who showed up within a few minutes. Turns out the guy was mentally ill, and to this day neither myself or the police know how he got in. I had a really bad sinus infection once. Couldn't clear my system out for a week or more. Decided to try generic Mucinex. I lost 3 days. I came to, standing in the middle of my studio apartment staring at the wall. I could barely remember anything. Just felt like I was a passenger in my body, kind of. I had worked all 3 of those days. Piloted public transport, cooked, translated stuff, used knives. All in this weird fugue state. When I came to, I spent a good hour at 3 in the morning trying to figure out what happened, what caused it. The only thing I had done differently was trying to clear up sinus infection with the meds. Poured those right in the toilet, and it never happened again. It was terrifying for me. The pure and utter confusion. My mum once shouted my name when I was home alone. She was in another country. It was midnight, and I live in a 7-bedroomed house. The neighbor's dog being hit by a car because of the sudden sound of screeching tire. Bang. Loud yelp/scream. Then guy screaming "no" at the top of his lungs, followed by a chorus of screaming and crying. By the time I got to the window, they were carrying him away. It was really sad, and just hearing such a guttural scream of grief from someone in the middle of the night was terrifying in itself, and still haunts me. Poor family and dog. I woke up at 4 AM because of the screaming on TV. They were showing Twilight and Bella was giving birth. Truly terrifying experience. I was watching a show where a mother literally became her home, and the walls would move in order to protect her kids from the outside world. I felt my house shift, almost like in slow motion, kind of like on the show Anne. I thought, well, this is just a side effect of too much TV, but then I screamed when pictures started falling off the mantle. So I quickly changed the channel, and it was actually an earthquake. Fell down the stairs in the middle of the night. Broke my leg. Had to crawl to my phone to call an ambulance, and then to the door to open it. Fun times. The front door of my apartment complex is broken, so anyone can walk in. People keep trying to open my front door or looking the windows. It creeps me out. Landlord will probably fix it this week and I can't wait. I get auditory hallucinations when I'm tired. That's brought on by my anxiety. The one that caused the worst anxiety attack I'd had in months was just as I was drifting off to sleep, a guy yelled "hey" right into my ear, and I launched myself out of bed before realizing what had happened. Sleep paralysis. Waking up from a nightmare soaked in sweat, with a weight on my chest and completely unable to move. Sometimes I see shadowy shapes or feel there's someone watching. I was chilling on the couch, doing whatever, when suddenly a really heavy person starts sprinting in our attic. Sounded like steel-toed boots and everything. I'm a really small woman, so I immediately freaked out, thinking there's a gigantic man stomping around my home. Then the screaming starts. Literal screaming, like something from The Exorcist, and there's multiple voices. I sneaked outside and cried, extremely shaken, and called the cops. Guess what in my attic? Not a great Y rapist, no. Raccoons. Also, the raccoons were mating. That's what the screaming came from. I bawled to the cops about horny raccoons. Someone attempting to break in. I have a 75-pound boxer and have never seen anyone run as fast as that man did. Somebody tried to break into the house while I was by myself. The whole place was quiet and dark at nighttime. I walked past the front door to go upstairs for bed, and the handle suddenly started jerking around like the Hulk was trying to get in. Then whoever it was started to either kick or shoulder the door, and it was making the whole frame jiggle. I completely froze, and my mind went blank. Just standing there like an idiot and staring. My dog bolted down the stairs, like it was her time to shine, scrambled on the tile, and let loose the most vicious barks I've ever heard. Whoever it was left. She was a very good girl. I miss her. When I was young, I came home from a party in the middle of the night, when my dad were out of town. I started making a midnight quesadilla when I heard someone cough in the basement. I yelled and ran outside, and they took off through the backyard. Come to find out, my dad's ex-GFS daughter stole her key to our house and came to rob us. She was busted a couple years later doing this to her still. I have been pretty fortunate, based on these comments, that I was home alone one night while my wife and son were visiting my mill. I walked back to our bedroom to see someone rummaging through my son's room on the video baby monitor. Immediately grabbed my firearm and yelled to the other side of the house, "I am armed. Come out slowly." Over and over while slowly making my way back to his room. Got there, flipped on the light and nothing. Searched the whole house, pumped full of adrenaline. Finally satisfied I was alone, I went back to my room and the guy was back in the room. I took a closer look and I'm ashamed to say I was looking at myself. The camera is a live feed on our Wi-Fi, and it was steaming on a huge delay. I have never known it to do that, and it has not done it since. TL. Doctor went looking for myself and came back empty-handed. The 13th of November, 1981. I was 15 at the time. I was at home with the cat. My parents were out with friends and the house shook and the lights and electrics went out. They came home a couple of hours later to find me under dining room table with the cat and all the lights out. Father, why are you sitting in the dark? Me, the house shook and the lights went out. Father, oh, there was a bomb in Wimbledon, 6 miles away, by the IRA. Me, didn't you think to check I was okay? Father, well, we weren't hurt, so you should have been okay. I was terrified. I'd been involved in bomb scares before but never experienced one going off, and if the house shook from a bomb 6 miles away it was big. I've only experienced something like that one other time. Thank goodness, when the Bunce Field oil storage exploded in 2005. That was probably a worse explosion, because it happened 40 miles from my home, and yet it still shook the walls. It woke my husband with a start, who thought for a moment he was back in the army. And my father, asleep in his own home that night, slept through it.